What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining another Sales Hacker webinar. Most of you know me. I'm Scott Barker. I run sales and partnerships at Sales Hacker. Today, the topic we're running through is how to create an integrated sales enablement strategy for your sales team. So lots of buzz around sales enablement right now. And whether you're a BDR, you're an account executive, VP of sales, CRO, sales ops, we're all striving for sales excellence. And today we're going to go deep into three core tenets of actually creating a sales enablement strategy that's going to set you up for that sales excellence. And I'm joined by some really amazing guests today, three of them. So Nikki, Ryan, and Don, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
So we're pumped to have all of you. And now, before I do formal introductions, just some quick housekeeping matters. So this will be recorded. So if you have to hop off, you got an important meeting you got to run to, all good. We'll shoot it over to you via email at the end of this. Feel free to share it out with colleagues that you think would benefit. And this particular webinar will be a presentation style. So of course, we love it when our community gets super interactive. Ask as many questions as possible. And we've left a good portion of time at the end for some Q&A. So, all these sessions are really about the community. It's all about, helping you guys learn new best practices and new technology. So get in there. If you have any, personal issues at your organization you want to address, let us know and we'll do our best to field them. But let's start with some intros. Because I have some awesome guests. So we have Nicolette Numeli. Numela, am I pronouncing that right? Numela? Mm-hmm. Numela, okay, perfect. Who is the Senior Manager of Global Sales Enablement Discovery and Analytical Solutions at PerkinElmer. So a perfect voice to be on this webinar. She works within the global commercial team to drive enablement strategies and programs to boost productivity, enhance performance, and of course, achieve revenue targets. Prior to her enablement position, Nikki spent 15 years managing numerous aspects of marketing and sales at a mix of startups and enterprise organizations. So we're super lucky to have her. And we have Ryan Levitt. Over to Ryan. So Ryan is the co-founder and CRO at LearnCore, which is a Showpad company. And LearnCore is the leading provider of sales training and coaching software with customers, across a wide range of industries and geographies, including market leaders such as Verizon, Box, CDW, Informatica, and RSA Security. So Ryan, welcome again. And then last, but of course not least, Don, looking a little dark at this moment, but we're super happy to have, and hopefully we can get the camera turned on at some point. But Don is actually the CRO at Showpad, which is amazing. So Don is responsible for scaling up Showpad's revenue growth worldwide. He's got extensive SaaS experience, including building high-performance global sales teams and transforming companies like SAP Hybris, just a small company, and Adobe into the high-growth market leaders that they are today. So I'm pumped. I just want to kind of sit back and pick all your brains. So without further ado, I know we've got a ton to cover here today. So Don, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate everybody's warm introduction, Scott. And we have a huge amount of people on the phones and internets and computers and laptops and Macs. So it's going to be an exciting hour. And I'm super bummed because you can't see my wonderful face this morning. I actually had a really nice suit and tie on for everybody, but hopefully the video comes back soon. But today we're going to talk about a couple of critical things. One is the challenge, right? What is the challenge and the gap between B2B sellers and buyers? You look at the last 10 plus years and 20 years, a lot of focus and rotation is around business to consumer. And the B2B paradigm and B2B2C paradigm has just exploded. And we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of setting up, where the world has gone over the course of the last 7 to 10 years. And then we'll get into the solutions of 3 C's of sales enablement, right? And how do we orchestrate the critical natures between analyzing and building out content, because content is king, driving to the richness around enablement and readiness to really cultivate the ability for a seller and a marketer to drive the challenges that the buyers are pushing on us now across the board. And lastly is just the sales enablement for the real world. I'm excited that Nikki's going to talk to us, one of our great customers, in terms of what she's done to revolutionize PerkinElmer in terms of the sales and marketing enablement process. So it's going to be a really fun-packed agenda. The next slide. So I want everybody to start think about 3 companies, and then there's more out there, but think Amazon, Netflix, and Booking.com. Just think of the richness, right? The personalization, the transparency they provide, the convenience. And what's even crazier is instant fulfillment. And just a quick story, my 9-year-old hovers on good old Amazon at 10 o'clock in the morning, and his gym shoes showed up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. The hovering concept is absolutely just built a foundation that now the buyer is demanding so much more. Instant information, right? We got to make sure that we're always relevant to that buyer now. As the sales practices today, if we look at B2B, they're not really in line with the buyer expectations. Most salespeople are considered boring because these decisions are already rendered. 89% of consumers today are making decisions based upon experience ahead of product and price. And again, think of 12 years or 6 years ago, that was 12%. That's a massive difference because what people want now is the experience. They want the service. They want the ongoing relationship to foster in the coming years. It's no longer just to sell a product, move on and walk away. It's absolutely vital that you understand the needs of the consumer and the customer and the product and deliver that in a rich experience. Next slide. So today, B2B, what do they want from us salespeople, us marketers? You know, first and foremost, they want to be understood. They want to be able to understand that you know my needs, you know my buying expectations, you understand my company, right? You understand what we're trying to do over the course of the next years. At the end of the day, I want you to understand me better than I understand myself. So they want to feel understood. Clear and effective communication. You know, sellers, we need to have excellent communication skills. We can't fumble through things. We can't throw out PowerPoints. We can't throw out documents and brochures and think they're going to sell themselves. At the end of the day, the expectations from the buyer is that every call, email, every touch point is tracked, communicated, and followed up in a very rigorous way. They want to make sure you understand me well and you're clearly communicating my needs. So I always understand that this company that I'm investing into or buying will stay with me long term. And lastly, new relevant perspectives and insights. And that's key. You know, buyers want to understand what's going on from not only today, but tomorrow. In an environment where buyers see little differentiation amongst vendors, right? Perspective provides the greatest opportunity for sellers to drive the value, right? It's a value-based world now. You know, product can get you so much, but at the end of the day, that product, that service will go down, will break. Is that person with me for the long haul? Is that person going to make sure that I'm up and running? Is that person going to make sure that I'm always innovating that service or product to make sure I'm prime time, right? In a nutshell, the best buying experience are built on a foundation of fantastic sales, smart and skilled people who bring value to their buyers, right? In the form of relevant insight and powerful information. So Ryan, next slide. So, how can you not only meet the buyer's rising expectations? It's through the holistic approach. There you go, you popped into the next one. In terms of what ShowPad and LearnCore are sort of creating in this evolution, right? The core around this is data and information is power. The more information you have, the more power you have. But how do you make sure that it's consumable? How do I pulse the richness of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data and analytics is the core? Because at the end of the day, this evolution of this 360-degree circle is content. Content is king. There is so much content spread across all these businesses. How do you harness that? How do you build the richness of content, whether it's a video, a pricing page, a document, your price list? These pieces of content are scattered throughout. Harnessing that content to relevant information at your fingertips is absolutely vital. And then as you round out the content, really truly understand how you empower the salesperson to talk to the buyer, you got to make sure that you're engaging and you keep engaging. understanding the buyer's intelligence, understanding what they're looking at, how they're looking at, collaborating, sharing information as they're looking at areas of your product or your business or your solution, readily staying engaged. And then readiness. You know, how do you continue that evolution with the sales and marketing organizations that you have the ability to continue to optimize your knowledge, build best practices on the learnings you have from the buyers in the industries you're selling into? And this 360-degree circle keeps flowing, because your hope is that when you, whatever product or offering you sell, they continue to buy. And the way you got to do that is you got to keep innovating. You got to be relevant. You got to be better than the website. You got to be interactive. And this is the key thrust that Showpad and LearnCore are bringing to the market right now. And it's the next generation. You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day. You think you know sales enablement? Think again. It's turning on its head. And Nikki's going to talk about what she's done at PerkinElmer, and it's really exciting. And this is just the beginning stages of the next generation of CRM. Next slide. So Scott, do you want to take over the poll, or do you want to jointly challenge our people on the call to make sure they're paying attention right now?
Yeah, well, I'll definitely make sure everyone is getting in this poll. So we want to ask this question. So which of these areas does your organization struggle with the most? So content management, coaching and training, or customer engagement. I think it's going to help us, you know, really guide this conversation. And I'm personally just extremely interested to hear what the audience has to say. So we'll keep it open for, you know, a minute or two, get your answers in, and excited to see the results here. All right, so we are getting some good results in. Just getting them. We're going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we have, interesting. So 51% said coaching and training is what they're struggling with. 30% was content management. And then the third and the last was actually customer engagement. So I find that really interesting. And I don't know if it's surprising. What do you guys think?
I'm not surprised. I think that's why you got us on the phone between LearnCore and Showpad, right? You harness the content, you train and enable.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Awesome. So yeah, I guess the question is now, you know, these organizations are struggling. What can they do about it?
Well, go to the next slide. And so it actually is an interesting sort of quagmire. And if you take a look at the evolution of the market, I stated this before, content is king, but it's become an unmanageable beast, right? At the end of the day, you have the prospect who's trying to get information from you as the seller. And you have marketing that's saying, I'm creating all these asset sales. Why aren't you using them? And all this data is between systems like Adobe or Box or ERP financial systems and pricing and content and distribution systems. And to harness that in terms of a manageable format is almost impossible, right? And at the end of the day, then when marketing's building, sales is driving low adoption in terms of content. There's not a lot of feedback that goes back and forth. And we set up very ineffective meetings. We set up PowerPoints that we lose or we can't track. We don't know if the data is relevant or updated. And how many times, and everybody on this call, you've done this, I know I have, where you go to a meeting and you come up with content that is not relevant to the customer. I got a PowerPoint on bicycles when I'm talking to a healthcare manufacturer. And it's just because that's the content that they have within an organization. You know, so at the end of the day, there's two really major components on content marketing that's a massive challenge, right? One is, how do I organize and distribute this content so the reps find it easy and they're not searching and they're not building and they're not killing my back end systems by just storing what I'll call garbage. And then on top of that is once you go out, even clicking down by industry, how do I understand from a marketing perspective that the content that's being delivered, is it working? Is it being consumed? Is it driving and correlating into revenue? Am I triggering off increased sales, average selling price, ARR? And at the end of the day, what's happening right now is marketing is pushing so much content, but it's all siloed. You have this one specific point in time thing that somebody in marketing goes off and builds, or product management and product marketing are delivering a new release and they build, but nobody's interacting with one another. And sales and marketing suffers. And the worst part about it is your end user, your customer you're trying to sell to, completely thinks you're useless in terms of the equation and chooses to go and research it themselves, right? At the end of the day, huge amount of sales is wasted, valuable time's not being driven. And again, Salesforce on average, the reps spend 64% of their time on non-selling activities. And I would say that's low. I know my teams, in prior lives used to struggle all the time getting ready for meetings and presentations. They'd spend 2 to 3 days building things, executing an hour meeting, and then not tracking or keeping score of this, right? And the second thing is the pain point sellers face with content management is they don't have any insight of what happens to the content after it's delivered. Everybody on this call, I know you've done this before. Here's my PowerPoint. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, this is cool. It's going to cost you X. What do you think? Great. I'm going to leave it with you. I'll give you a call next week. Either A, you hear back. B, you don't hear back, but it's sitting on somebody's desk and you don't know what they're looking at. You can't understand how to negotiate with that customer. You don't know what relevance of what you're trying to sell them excites them. And it leads to poor negotiation. It leads to poor buying experience. And chances are you're probably going to you're going to lose that customer. Whether they buy it to you short term because your product's so well, you most likely won't be that liaison or that confidant within that organization to really take them to the next level. So that's sort of the quagmire. Content management is the ugly beast in the room we're trying to channel. Enabling the content, training and educating our sales organizations and marketing is the key and the challenge. And that's what I'm excited to, we mentioned this in the very beginning. With the acquisition that was just made with LearnCore, I've been working with Ryan hand in hand, and I'm very excited as to what this piece of the puzzle does to round out the overall solution that we have. And so, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the next critical thing, and that was the number one. So no stress for you, Ryan. You got to really kick it in high gear to tell everybody about sales readiness and content.
Well,
Ryan?
thanks, Tom. And I've got some good news and some bad news as we dig into the current state of coaching and training. But this is great, right? So 51% of the people that responded said that this is your current biggest challenge, right? And it's coaching and training. What's really interesting is that everything that Don just talked about with the content is critical, right? But it doesn't matter what content you have or when they get it if the reps don't actually know what it means, if they don't know how to communicate it, and if you can't make sure that they actually can communicate it before they get in the field and start to deliver that content and negotiate or talk about value or talk about the product that they're selling. So that all goes hand in hand, and that's really that cycle that Don showed a couple slides ago. So the good news is that 74% of companies say that coaching is the number one initiative and priority that their frontline sales managers should be doing. So 3 out of every 4 companies say that coaching is the most important thing that managers should be doing. So that's great, right? Companies are aware, leaders are aware of that. The bad news is right here on this slide, right? 75% of the organizations are wasting their resources because it's informal, it's not structured, there's no consistency, and that 47% of managers are spending less than 30 minutes a week coaching reps. So let's put all that together, right? If this is the number one priority, why is it done in such a disjointed and inconsistent manner? And that is a huge, huge gap, right? That's just a huge gap in the skills and the productivity that the sales reps could be having, right? And if you don't know what the managers are coaching, when they're coaching, what they're saying, what the results are, how's that impacting performance, then there's no consistency across the team, right? There's no data and analytics that you could take and analyze and pull insights from. And then there's no accountability. And that's the key to all of this. So if you can't hold the managers accountable for doing the coaching and spending 30 minutes with each rep, right? Or with everybody in the team, whatever it might be, whether it's daily or weekly or monthly, doing one-on-ones twice a month, that level of accountability is really critical to making sure that everybody actually is driving performance and that you have the transparency into what the managers are doing. So we've identified a gap. That's step one. That's great. But how do you solve the gap? And in all honesty, it's really not rocket science. This is a methodology we've been using for a really long time. And the key is on those items that I've already touched on. It's around data and analytics. It's around consistency, and it's around accountability. And so we do that through 3 steps in the process. It's building your knowledge and building the skills, and then certifying through coaching. So you do that by making sure that everybody has the right knowledge, right? Step 1 is, doesn't matter about the communication, it doesn't matter about the content. They need to learn the material, and you need to be sure that they learned it. So the best way to do that is through bite-sized content, making sure that you're delivering the right content at the right time. So if someone is going through a sales cycle and they're selling product X and they're selling against competitor Y, at that point in time, you need to make sure that they know the exact talk track and the exact value prop for product X against competitor Y. And that's really critical. So that's the knowledge component, to make sure everybody always has what they need and is always up to speed. And then you need to certify, you need to test that knowledge. And that's through testing or quizzing or any other form of assessment. And what you want to do is make sure, did they retain it? Can they actually recall that information? Because at that point, what you've done is you've certified, great, everybody learned all the material they need, and they actually know it. They can recall that information when they need to. And that's great. That's half the battle. But there's a whole other half of the battle, and that's this idea of application, right? So just because someone learned it and they can recall it and they can pass a test, doesn't mean that when they get in front of a customer that they can actually communicate the message. And without the communication, without the application, a salesperson cannot sell. And so that's this idea of practicing. Through practicing and watching yourself and self-critique and leveraging your peers and getting feedback and seeing what your peers are doing and seeing leaderboards, that's really critical to making sure that you actually can apply it. But the managers need to get in there too. The managers need to be able to see what are the skills that our sales team has, right? What are the knowledge, how much knowledge they have, how do they communicate it? And then they need to be able to give feedback and continuously complete that cycle. Because what you learn today might be out of date in 3 weeks. And so you need to recertify. You need to always make sure that the knowledge is really high and the skills are very high across the board for the entire sales team. And the larger your sales team gets, the more globally dispersed they are, the more complicated products you have, the bigger that gap between knowing that you need to coach and what the managers are actually coaching on becomes. And this consistency and this formula is what helps to drive that, to make sure that everybody is always on the same page, and you can actually pull the data and analytics to see what's working and what's not, and continuously drive performance. So Don, back to you on the engagement point here.
Unmute, there we go. So just pause for a second, take a look at this. So if you're a salesperson and a marketer, this is like a nauseating slide to look at. Forrester, 85% of buyers feel that meetings with salespeople are just not valuable. So all this hard work we think we're doing, we're just not hitting the mark. And then 66% of the buyers feel most of the information is completely irrelevant to my buying experience. I mean, this is a very powerful slide that Forrester comes out, and it really hits home. And you got to self-reflect to look at this and say, well, me as a sales professional, am I doing my job? And I've said this to a lot of people that I stay in contact with and my mentors. We speak about this a lot. The art of selling has sort of diminished over the course of years. And it really is around, do I continue understanding what's going on in the marketplace? Do I understand my technology and understand how am I increasing revenues or decreasing costs for my customers? Am I really taking the time to sell? Selling is an art. And I think a lot of us have forgotten that art needs to be bolstered, because with the birth of the internet and any device to buy anything at any time, the Amazons and Netflixes of the world, we got to step up our game. And this is a very powerful thing to take a look at as to how do I do this different? So to differentiate yourself, start thinking about, you really got to understand who the decision makers are in the deal. Each decision maker, you got to tactfully go after and understand what's important to them. It's not a one-stop shop. There's relevance across the board, and every single person that's involved in that deal has to be sold, has to have the head nod saying, I get it. You're here for me in the long run. On average, there are about 6 to 7 people involved in any given cycle. right? So you always look, do I understand the budget? Do I understand who the authority levels are? There's a technical authority and a business authority. 7 people influence this. We got to step up our game as sales and marketers, right? Number 2, really take and leverage analytics to understand the prospect and understand what you're sharing and if it's working or not, right? Definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. But you have to look at this and making sure that the insight you're given, you change and adapt if it's not working and resonating. Ask the questions, track your emails that are open, looking at content views and clicks and downloads, and really understand how you can shorten your sales cycle, because your customers really want to buy. They're just afraid. They're trying to mitigate risk. They're trying to make sure that you're the vendor, that if this thing breaks and goes down, will you be there for me or I lose my job? And lastly, just ensure that you're just not you, but your entire team is selling the way buyers want to buy, right? Ensure your presentations are relevant, they're engaging, they're intuitive, very personal. And again, they're available when your prospect needs it, to continue to feed them information that's relevant, right? And that's what's going to be critical, separating us moving forward as sales and marketers. So next slide. And it leads me into a great segue. I'm really excited that Nikki is going to now speak to the ingredients of what a successful enablement platform is. Right? It's Perkin and Elmer. What she's done is just awesome, and it's working hand in hand with us to make sure that we're along for a journey today and tomorrow, tying in content, customer, coaching, and training together. So Nikki, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Don. So really excited to be here to talk about sort of sales enablement in the real world at Perkin Elmer. So who is Perkin Elmer? We are another B2B company, right, in the life science industry, and we're really focused on improving human and environmental health. So my role is really to lead the global sales enablement strategy and execution, which I'm sure all of you on the call know that's a very challenging role. And one of our goals, like probably many of you, is how we can make sales more effective and more productive. And this is difficult, right? Because we're also in a time where with technology is changing, how we're selling is changing. We're asking a lot of our sales reps, right? Sell more products, sell the full portfolio of solutions, cross-sell, upsell, not just what you have in your own bag, expand into new markets, do more sales-led marketing and prospecting to get us into those new markets. We have to onboard much faster, right? That ramped volume for new hires, and move deals faster. So there's a lot, right, of pressure. And there's a number of things that we could try to help us be more effective. But when it comes down to the basics, a fundamental need that we had is how do we manage and deliver content and training to our sales team? So we wanted to have one platform that would allow us to serve up content and training to sales on demand, right? Wherever they are in the field that day, they can have it on demand. And a platform that would make it faster and easier for sales to find content, prepare content, and share more valuable content with our customers. And something that could report on how the content's being consumed, right? We didn't have any content ROI at the time. So we needed a platform that was also scalable and expandable, because this was going to become the foundation for enablement activities here globally. Go to the next slide. So when we were looking for an enablement solution, we used an integrated approach, right? And this required a very robust, I can't say this enough, alignment between sales and marketing. I feel one can't be successful without the other, and that is a very strong relationship that needs to be built. And I recommend doing that because it's going to help drive value across multiple user experiences. So not just for the sales team, right? What is marketing getting out of it? What are our customers getting out of it? So we need to first enable marketing to quickly deliver content and training to sales to support their sales activities. They needed a way to better manage content, govern that content, and then measure how the content's performing across our deals. So this was just another touch point for marketing to get that 360-degree view of our customer and the content that they're consuming. And then second, we needed to enable sales to quickly find, personalize, and share the right content at the right time in the sales process. Ensure they have access to the content and training across our full portfolio of solutions. So again, that upselling, cross-selling. Provide insights from our recipient engagement to help drive conversations forward, help our reps better prioritize deals. And at the end of the day, we wanted this to be automated through our CRM, so our sales team doesn't have to spend more time administrative time going in and logging all these activities that they've done on the opportunities. So by building and enabling marketing and sales, you're also in turn promoting a better overall customer experience. So customers are receiving more valuable personalized content that was going to help strengthen that buying relationship with sales and speed up their buying decisions. Next. So why Showpad and LearnCore? So we found this to be a very innovative and game-changing technology that fit our needs. So when you go back to those needs that we had, one, this technology was going to promote better sales and marketing alignment. And how? We were going to have one system for our global commercial content delivery, including our channel partners, which was great. We were going to have access to the right content at the right time to better engage our buyers, promote that upselling, cross-selling, build more meaningful relationships with our customers, and enhance our overall brand, right? Because all of this is done in a nice branded environment. Third, zero waste content. We don't want to waste any more content, right? Marketing produces some great, and product management, great content. We just need to get it in the hands of our reps and train them on how to use it. So if sales can't find it, it's a waste. Through this technology, there's immediate notifications to the team on what's new, so they don't have to guess what's new. They just get a notification. How easy is that? There are feedback loops from sales to marketing, and then there's also analytics to marketing on what content's winning. What's not? Where are the gaps? In addition to being able to send training and micro-learnings around this content to deliver the right message. So bringing those two together has been great and wonderful for us. Second, we needed a cloud-based mobile solution that provided these buyer insights. Okay, so our company sells very high-end instruments. We need to look technically savvy and be on our game. So having this mobile solution allows our team to access content anywhere at any time, on any platform, a tablet, a mobile device, off their computer. And it's also single sign-on, which is amazing because we have no more passwords that we can possibly remember at this point to log into platforms. So having that integrated and having single sign-on has been fabulous. And then the immediate push notifications. So the moment a recipient interacts with the content, you will know. There is a notification that comes, and that's helpful when you're trying to prioritize your deals for the day, for the week, for the quarter, and what that next activity is going to be. So that was another need that was met. And then finally, it was scalable and it's expandable. And what I mean by that is you can start small, like we did, lay the foundation, and then build and layer for a complete enablement technology stack. So the platform allows multiple system integrations, which is amazing because you never have to leave the platform of choice to access content or analytics. This is things like Okta for single sign-on, your CRM, email marketing automation, LMS like LearnCore. And there's option for expansions for things, Showpad's always coming out with new technology and new features like CRM content recommendations, guided selling modules, and then coaching. Show what you've learned through the pitch IQs, as Ryan has already discussed. So, we felt this was a great platform where we could build upon and have been, super successful so far. So next slide. So let's talk about some of that success and the value of the results that we've seen. So we started off very small with one business and 160 users. And today we've grown to over 1,000 users across all businesses globally. So why? Why is it so popular? There's, a ton of reasons I could go over, but the bottom line is it's helping accelerate our sales activities all the way from prospecting to close. So since we've launched, we've seen an increase in opportunities in won deals where Showpad was used as a communication mechanism in that process. We've also seen an increase in content engagement from our customers. So this tells me that the team is doing something right. They're sending content that's valuable and targeted to customers. So can we say the teams are being more productive and effective, which is one of my goals? I think so, but I also think, as mentioned, we're just scratching the surface with enablement, and this is something that's growing. We have a successful platform now that we can continue to build upon in the future to enhance our effectiveness and performance. But I'm really excited to have two great technology partners that we're working with to help get us there in that journey. So that's kind of, our high level experience here at PerkinElmer.
So Scott, we closing already? It seems like we just started.
Well, no, this is great. So we have a bunch of great questions. So we're going to get to actually dive through a number of them. So we'll grill my lovely panelists for a little while. But yeah, so just diving through again, the key takeaways here, and we'll continue to run through them. But so number one is deliver valuable content and map content to the buyer journey. Number two, systematically improve training and coaching to improve performance. Number three, meet your buyers where they are and sell the way they want to buy. Number four, the best buyer experience wins 100%. And number five, don't wait. No matter where you are, start and start now. You got to be paying attention to these sales enablement strategies. So we have some great questions, and I've got one for you, Ryan, from Chris, and I love this question. What should we be coaching for, the selling process or the buying process? And then the second part is, how can leaders help reps understand more about their buyers and the buying process?
So great questions. So the first question, it's both, right? And it depends on, I know that's kind of you may not like that answer, but it depends on the individual rep, right? It depends on where they are in their journey as a sales rep, or if it's to a specific deal. But there's sales skills that need to be taught, right? The fundamentals of selling that you can teach through training and through observing them and then coaching them as they go. But then there's also elements of the buying process as well that are a little bit more advanced for the sales reps as well. And some of that is oftentimes reacting to the buyer, understanding the buyer, understanding why a deal is moving the way it is, or why buyers are communicating or acting the way they are. And those are all different elements that need to be coached. What we like to do here, and we like to advise our clients on, is to pick small pieces, right? So don't try to coach on all of it at once. It's finding out what are the challenges today, what are the gaps today, and really identifying those and coaching them on them in bite-sized pieces or elements. And that goes hand in hand with just training in general and upskilling the team in general, is to not try to boil the ocean, right? So you're not going to be able to accomplish everything in one day. You're not going to be able to accomplish everything in a week or a month. But finding the pieces and those that are going to drive the leading indicators so then you can measure it as well is really critical. And Scott, what was the second question?
Yeah, and then the follow-up was, how can leaders help reps understand more about their buyers and the buying process?
Good question. Really good question. So I'll answer that in two ways. One thing is that is the frontline managers need coaching and training themselves. And that's a huge gap that we hear from our customers all the time, is that companies are looking for content on how do we train our frontline managers, who are oftentimes managers or leaders for the first time. And so it starts with them, and they need to understand why. They need to understand how to coach. You need to make sure that they have the skills as managers and leaders to provide that feedback and coach along the way. And that's where I would start. And take a look at your frontline managers and see if they have those skills.
Yeah. Some great points. Don, Nikki, anything to add there?
Love to hear Nikki, your comment. Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the point here is that the starting small, I can't say enough, right? It's overwhelming to think you're going to solve every enablement challenge, training, coaching in one shot. It's just not going to happen. But to be able to start now and start today, start small, you will be very surprised how quickly that can grow through the organization and people get adopted and on board and kind of change the way that we've been thinking about enablement in the past. So just wanted to reiterate that point. Don't be afraid to jump in, start small, and you'll be pretty surprised how quickly that can grow.
Yeah, and that's the piece that, to complement what Nikki was saying, is you said it, Scott, in your number 5, don't wait. No matter where you are in the cycle, reassess where you are. But more importantly, just ask the questions. There's so many people that are just afraid to ask the questions. What's important to you? Why have you done this? Have you done this before? What happens when there's success? Really pay attention to what defines that person's success, whether it's getting the process or product successfully deployed, with the ongoing support of this. What happens when this is the success for you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer? So again, just ask the questions, put yourself in their shoes, right? There's another, be very empathetic, walk in their shoes for a little bit to find out, take it from just getting the commission check and running to I'm in here for a long term and I want to make sure that Nikki is very successful. And what happens when she is successful? What does that do for her in her career? Really try to understand the buyers. And I'm not talking about getting it. I was talking to one of my reps today. You don't want to be creepy about it and hunt them down and find them everywhere they go on their personal side, but you really want to make sure you understand what the win is for them above and beyond just the business and the contract.
Yeah, makes total sense. All right, so we have a ton of great questions. So thank you for the engagement, and they're really, really great questions. So Corrine Bryce, thanks for the question, Corrine. And I'll leave this open to whoever wants to kind of take a stab at this. So for a company that's revamping their sales training program in every aspect, from training videos, coaching to content management, what are some ways to initially tackle the issue of poor compliance or usage of the content the company already has available? How do we redeliver content that has been in their hands from day one in a way reps that will want to revisit it? And we can probably break that into two questions there. One being, how do you tackle the issue of poor usage of content that your company has? Like maybe you have a bunch of great content and no one's using that.
I mean, I can respond to that part. We had a similar challenge, right? It's not that the content isn't great, or maybe it's not, right? And sales is creating their own content, and there's content everywhere. Different platforms, they're going to the website, they're going to maybe a SharePoint, a Box, an email, they have it on their laptops. If they can't find it, it's not valuable. They're not going to use it, and it will never make its way in front of a customer. So for us, that was the first order of business, that we needed to get a content management governance in place, that reps could access it 24/7 from wherever they were and know that that's the most recent version. So eliminated all of our version control issues. So for me, I think, content is king, and that's where you need to start, is really taking hold of what's valuable, maybe reassessing what's not, and coming up with new content that maybe supports more of your sales methodology or the process of the way you're selling and buyers are buying, but then having that mechanism to easily deploy it so you know that it's getting in the hands and you know what they're doing with it and you know what our customers are doing with it.
And Nikki, you actually made a powerful comment there too. I've seen so many customers, even in my prior life at Adobe, organizations spend millions and millions of dollars on CMS content systems or web content systems and think it's going to solve the need. If you don't have top-down executive commitment to share the data and the content for usability, you're throwing a lot of money away. And that's the big the age-old adage about how do I get the relevant content and keep understanding if it's still relevant to pulse and manage. And it has to be a happy marriage between sales enablement, marketing, and sales to really build out the user interface and pull this content up. So it's a combination, and it's a really powerful message you just stated, Nikki.
Yeah, no, that was great, and thanks for that. And Corrine, I hope that answered your question. So let's go quickly. We got a question actually up in the chat that's a little more direct about Showpad and LearnCore. It's for Nikki. Are you using Showpad and LearnCore for direct sales reps or also for partners? If you use partners, how are they accessing and using the system?
Yeah, so we do use it both for our full commercial organization, so sales, marketing, and our partners. So the technology allows you to build out what's called channels. Channels have the products that your resellers or dealers are selling, where you can limit, the things that they're not, or maybe some internal stuff that you don't want to share with your dealers. So when I talk about expandable and scalable, this is what I mean, because you're able to, have this foundation, but then you can build on that and build out these channels for other groups that might not necessarily be direct employees. So we use it for both, and our dealers love it, because before this, where do we go to get, stuff for our marketing? Where do we go for sales? It was all over the place. So now they have everything that's very customized, because they're basically a customer, as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you. And okay, let's go to Andrew. Thank you for the question, Andrew. Andrew wants to know kind of your thoughts on introducing collaboration tools like Slack or Chatter to also bring, sales enablement and sales closer together to support the sales cycle. Thoughts there? Are you guys using a tool like Slack or Chatter currently?
So we use Chatter. We do have Chatter as part of that. But I think the next evolution of enablement is really how we integrate a social platform for this type of conversation internally between teams, and also how we reach out to our customers and prospects in a social setting through the same platform. So bringing in that piece and being able to, rate content or show content that's been useful for others in this same environment. So we do use Chatter. It's kind of a little bit outside of, the Showpad platform, but it is built into our CRM, and we do use that. But I think something, and I believe it's coming, because I think every time I have a vision, and then next thing I know, it's on the roadmap. So.
So you envision like a social Slack where you can get it in front of everyone?
Correct.
I like it.
The other thing I would add there.
I'm probably going to go build that now. Who's listening?
The other thing I would add there is that we were talking about compliance before with content and training and coaching, and social channels are actually a really good way to drive compliance, and it's through recognition, right? It's through saying, hey, you know what? Nikki did an incredible job on her value prop. Everybody should watch how she did that. And when you start to share that, it actually drives a little bit more awareness of what other people are doing in the organization, and gets leadership eyes on that as well, and helps to drive that accountability.
Definitely. Yeah, it kind of democratizes that learning out of just one person, across the whole system. I like it. Okay, going to another question. So John, I'm going to point this one, or Don, sorry, I'm going to point this one at you. This is from John, hence the confusion, John and Don. So please describe the resource teams, like how many people at your organization do you have specifically dedicated to training and development of your sales org? And like who's creating all this learning content and driving this engagement?
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal question, because we're evolving this massively now with the next phase. We're scaling as an organization, and we acquired LearnCore. Implementing LearnCore within our organization is key. Who's tied to it? Product marketing, product management, right? We got to make sure that we're pulsing the new product development, the new releases, the new versions, to certify our salespeople, to make sure they have the relevance to attack the marketplace we sell. So product marketing and management is vital. Marketing, branding, how marketing interacts with our partner ecosystem. So once you have the product marketing team interacting with the partner marketing team, we can educate the ecosystem of the channel, right? The systems integrators, the technology partners that we deal with, to make sure that they have the understanding of the relevance of what we're introducing or driving and selling. Then tied ultimately to sales and just our core marketing, right? This closed loop, we really didn't have the capabilities to enable or drive the richness around readiness. And as we evaluated LearnCore to do this for us, we actually selected, hey, we should buy them. And that's how the world came within LearnCore. And it was so cool, because we did this and nobody knew that we were evaluating LearnCore in the process. So people-wise, it's, I would probably, so partner marketing, if you look at partner marketing, in marketing in full, we have probably about a dozen total, 3 in product, 3 in marketing, 3 in channel, and we're scaling that. So we're hoping to double this going into the following upcoming years, because it's a critical piece. But again, product marketing has to be tied to sales and has to be tied to brand marketing in order to have a full circle or closed loop.
Yeah, would strongly agree. Great points there. Okay, so another question we've got Sarah. I like this one. So what's an exercise that can help me map the customer journey and my content journey? Anyone want to take a stab at that?
I'm looking at Nikki to see if she wants to say how she's getting her.
That's a good question. That's a hard one. I mean, the customer journey, we're still, trying to figure that out, and how technology can help us to see, that starting touch point through, perpetual demand, through, content engagement on our website, trade shows, and then how sales is reaching out to them as well, right? So they're not just being touched by marketing campaigns, they're being touched directly by sales, and sales, as I mentioned before, is tasked with doing some sales-led marketing campaigns. So getting that full 360-degree view is difficult, but I can tell you, when you do have a platform that has integration with your marketing automation platform, with your CRM, and with your content, you will start to be able to see that picture very clearly, and then be able to, understand the content that they're absorbing and at what rate, to know what content you should be building in the future, or what content maybe you should be weaning out. I wish I knew, because then everyone would probably want to hire me to but we're still figuring that out as well.
Yeah.
But the thing, though, that Nikki was saying on that is, and I love the question, I'm pushing my team to do the same thing. Understand the journey. It's not about a product, and it's beyond experiences. Think about, you're doing one or two things to the customer. You're either increasing their revenues for them or decreasing their costs for them. One of the two. And that's how the relevance of them buying your technology will enhance. On the flip side, take a look at those buyers and making sure that you understand what they go through to actually sell their product or service. Map that journey. And if you can automate that journey for them, optimize that journey for them, you're going to knock it out of the park. So really pay attention to how that service or product is driven to revenue for that customer. And that's the ticket of what kind of content you're going to need, what kind of partnering ecosystem you're going to have to build out, what help you're going to need from product marketing, from brand marketing, and from your sales management. But build that journey. That's critical.
Absolutely. Definitely. And okay, so this is a very direct question. I'm going to hit you with this, Ryan, and get you to weigh on this. So Lenny, I'm assuming, is a sales manager, wants to know how many hours per week should he be spending coaching his team?
Good question. I think it varies, right? So there's one-on-ones you're going to be having in person, right? And so if you're doing a one-on-one with everybody on your team each week, you might have 30 minutes of one-on-ones with each individual, and presumably you're managing 7 or 8 people, hopefully not too many more than that. If you are, it stretches you way too thin. But then there's the virtual coaching, right? There's the practice sessions and continuously making sure everybody can deliver a specific value prop or differentiation statement, or negotiate, or whatever it is, but being able to coach on specific items. And those are a little more ad hoc. You could do those virtually. And then there's the day-to-day coaching, right? There's the coaching on deals, coaching on calls, sitting in with them and being active. So it's not just coaching from a spreadsheet. So I don't think there's an optimal amount of time, right? But, presumably you're spending at least a couple hours with each rep every week, and it's different formats of coaching. It's not just in a one-to-one setting in a formal coaching environment.
I can add a little bit to that too, Scott. So, as a manager, there's enablement technology, right? That's geared towards the manager and to help them to better get a 360-degree view of their team's effectiveness and performance. And some of these tools work together to do that. So if you, of course, you're going to, live in your CRM and figure out the forecast and what deals are coming through, where they're stalled. But having another platform where you can look at and say, well, what are their activities? How many times have they emailed this customer? What content are they sharing? Have they taken any of the training, micro modules that we've sent out on how to utilize this? So it gives you a bigger picture of where to coach, right? Because every rep's going to be different. So I find that helpful, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that more and get a bigger 360-degree view of our commercial organization.
Totally. Yeah, because then, it's going to allow that it's not just hours, like you said, Ryan, it's how effective are those hours, right? So with tools and technology that makes, the 1 hour be as effective as, 5-6 hours of training if you don't pinpoint exactly what they need. It's a great point. All right. So we probably have time for one more question. And again, thank you everyone for the great questions. I'm going to take this one because I think it's something that we haven't really touched too much on. And it's an important part of, sales enablement. And Dan is basically just asking, can you walk me through your onboarding process at your respective organizations? I would keep this pretty high level because this could be a whole webinar in itself, I think. But who wants to take a crack at that one?
I mean, I could take a quick crack at that. So up until a couple of weeks ago, we were a 50-person organization. So everybody at the organization is involved in onboarding because we leverage subject matter experts to help create content and coach. And then we've got this really great solution that we built here in-house called LearnCore, which automated that all for us. So it was easy for us. It always has been. But Nikki, this might be more.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like we bought LearnCore to do it. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so
one of you built it, one of you bought it. Hey, you guys are cheating over there.
So we couldn't have been happier, right? Because we already were utilizing ShowPad, and we actually reached out to LearnCore to help us with our onboarding. So we needed something that was scalable. We were spending too much time one-on-one with every new hire, taking them through the onboarding process. And we really didn't have a robust kind of process. So we were going to start from square one. And so with LearnCore, we've been able to scale our onboarding, which I can tell you has given me back 10 hours a week at least, and having to do one-on-one training and doing some self-serve learning when they onboard, what they need to do. We have things about what you need to know in the next 30 days, what you need to complete within the next 60 days, where you should be in your first 90 days with the company. Mm-hmm. I do an onboarding module for ShowPad, how to use ShowPad, how to get the most value out of that. So literally you can put any kind of training you could think of through the LearnCore system, and it's just so great because it's scalable.
Love it. Awesome. Well, that is our questions. That is also our time. So I wanted to thank everyone who participated. We got some great questions, great engagement throughout. So thank you as always to the community, and of course, Ryan, Don, Nikki, thank you so much for your insights and your time. This was an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you, everyone.